than last year, and the 3/12 or 1/4 of the budget to date. And down below, I go by object code, which is salaries, employee benefits, purchase services, supplies. And I do the same. I do this year to last year. And then the one right below it is this year against the annual budget. And so on the bottom one, when you go to the very bottom right corner where it's 18.56%, we are 25% of the way through the year right now. So you can see that we are roughly 6.5% under what those budget expenditures are for this time of the year. Some of those are seasonal, some will pick up, but to date, you can see that we are within the budget expectations. We haven't really over-exceeded that.
Once we approve the capital expenses, though, won't that kind of wipe some of that out?
Absolutely.
Or catch it up?
So you can see our adopted budget's 1.2 million capital, and to date, we spent about 142,000, and those were the unfrozen items that we had. Some of that as well is carryover items from the previous year. At the end of June, we should have looked at the items that were ordered and not received and rebudgeted those into the next year. We did not get that done. And so some of the assets that were in last year's budget were ordered, and with the supply chain delays that everybody experiences, some of that still hasn't been received. But when it does, it hits the current year. And so that's why that number is so high, 142, where capital is frozen. Some of that is from previous years. I'm going to watch the overall budget really close, and if we need to propose budget amendments, I will bring those for the consideration of the council.
I guess another question that I had was, how much of that reserve are we gonna have in our reserve after we get through doing what we wanna do?
On the last report, on those items that I mentioned, we would be down to about 20 million in reserves, which is still up from 10 years ago, 13 million. You're still 7 million higher. We just need to determine through policy where we want those reserves and how we want to treat those reserves. But the reserves are still really high, and the capital here could be a couple $100,000 that should have been rolled over. All of that would have been in last year's budget that would have moved to reserves. And all of this is as of fiscal year 21. That's the audit that we have.
Okay.
And so reserves will climb a little bit, but not a lot in 22.
So one of my thoughts were that whatever we leave in the reserves, that we could borrow from those reserves, pay it back with the six penny that we haven't collected or will be collecting.
Yep.
So we could complete some of these projects that the community voted on for us to get done. So I'm really interested in doing something like that.
Absolutely. And we could bring a proposal on those things to the council. I mean, absolutely.
Tom, I think we have somewhere around 5.3 million in debt. Is that correct? Is there any consideration to pay any of that off?
That is correct, but the debt is in the enterprise funds.
So we could loan, would that go away in 10 years if we loaned it from these funds to those enterprise funds?
The water line debt and the sewer debt would be pretty close to being paid off in 10 years. I mean, we would have those balances quite low. The landfill is the post-closure costs. And so that is an option, that we could always pay off some of those things through a transfer of the general fund as support. Usually what we try to do, okay, is to have the enterprise funds break even with their revenues and their expenditures. And so usually in those funds, you would try to increase the rates to make sure that overall we are breaking even in there. And if we are, there is sufficient funds to make those debt payments. But I also know that the debt payments include interest, and if you can pay them off early, you do save the interest costs that would be incurred. But usually the enterprise fund, you would try to do what you could do within that to make those payments. I do know in the water rate study that was done, all those debt payments were included in that. And so the water rates that we have set should be sufficient to cover off those debts plus the USDA loan that we're looking at. Okay, how much time? I don't want to go.
We can go for like another 7 minutes or something, just to give us a 10-minute break. I would just like to say something real quick. Number one, it's really good to get the audit report and to have you explain through what you're doing tonight to give us a better understanding of where we're at. It's very comforting, I might add.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say was I didn't think that survey would get done. I thought there was a long ways to go. And my hat's off to the Myra, Pam, the volunteers who went out and got that done. That was an amazing feat. I just wanted to say that.
I will say that when I left Friday, I went up to see my mom, and we were like 70 short. It was pretty dire. And then I kept getting texts from Myra as to updates. And I thought, we're going to get this. This is like amazing. And Sunday, when I came in to do some work, they were still here gathering those. Amazing effort. I just cannot give Myra, Pam, the volunteers, you just can't give them enough credit for what they've done. I mean, amazing work.
I didn't think it was going to happen, and
I didn't either.
Well, and
And
thank
it
you
did.
to everybody who answered in the community, because I
Yes.
think we really pulled out the stops and were brave. So thank you to all of 360 of you.
yep.
And I think there was a lot of people that didn't understand it. I personally went and said, well, why can't we just have some kind of a community meeting and try to get some people involved signing the petition? It was my understanding they had already picked who they were gonna survey.
Yeah.
And so I learned something in that. So I do appreciate the work they did.
Well, it took to some of those homes 4 to 5 visits to catch them. And we just kept on. I mean, amazing effort. And then Monday, all the applications were due. And we spent our time on the survey, and the effort that came together Monday from Josiah, Austin, and those to get the applications written and submitted was also such great teamwork. I mean, it just was an amazing, I was just so proud to be part of it with them, with what they did. And so they are submitted to the state. The survey is submitted. They'll have to look at it, I guess, rule on it. But we did our part. We've got those responses.
Yeah, that was amazing.
It was very
It
good.
is.
I didn't think it was going to happen. I was overjoyed to hear it did. I'm so proud of you all.
Yeah, it was a good effort. So, all right. Real quick, on page 3, I compare all of the general fund departments expenditures from this time of this year to last year. Okay, you can see increases, decreases, in those things, and the larger variances, like the 740,000 under streets, is included back on page 4 in an explanation that we had infrastructure costs that year that we didn't have this year. And so I just want you to know that's how it reads, okay, is that those schedules are there. The explanations are on page 4 and 5 and on to page 6 are essentially what happened from what I see. Feel free to email me and I'll put in further explanations that you would like to see in there that would be of interest. On page 7 is a breakdown of our revenue basically by line item, so that you can see how we are doing on all the different areas and all the revenues that we have. And this is according to the budget that we have. And so you can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, we've received 34.79% of our revenue, and we're 25% of the way through the year. And with the seasonal fluctuations in sales tax and those things, that is right where we should be. I think we're right on track for that. Page 8 is just those general fund departments compared to the budget. And you can see overall 21.92% out of 25. We're a little bit under. We're staying within our budgets so far in the year. And the rest of that you can read through, but those are the main points that I would like to share. On page 15 may be of interest because the budget, the capital assets, when they were froze, this is the list that we froze. And what I will do in future months is I will put another column over as to what is spent and what hasn't been spent, so that you can follow the acquisition of these assets. Impact assistance is in there, balance, 6 penny balances are in there, and we kind of finish up with all the enterprise funds on a cash basis, where they are with the summary. So with that, I would answer any questions, or if there's any other information that the council would like in these reports, please let me know. I am more than happy to give those informations. Now that we have cash reserves, I will incorporate those into here.
Councilman Weisenberg?
The only question I have is, I know it's an agenda item coming up of possibly if it's voted to approve the unfreezing of the capital. How much is that? Are you anticipating that's going to come out of cash reserves right away, or are you is it going to be regulated? Which ones is going to be chosen down through here for what department, due to the fact that it's all based on tax revenues and stuff like that coming in throughout the whole year, not just one
That's what
time?
it is. So the only impact on cash reserves that would have is if the cash outflows over exceed the cash inflows from revenue. But over the course of the year, we should have our revenues and our expenditures basically the same, and it would be included in those current year revenues.
So you're not worried about taking too much out right now for current year?
Right now, I'm not, because
Okay.
we have enough in the reserves that if we have to temporarily within the year dip
Okay.
in until the sales tax picks up, I think that's fully covered in there. I
Okay,
really do.
thank you.
Tom, aren't those a lot of those expenditures from the impact assistance money anyway?
The impact assistance expenditures for capital were not frozen.
We didn't, I thought we only
froze the
did
general
some.
fund, which
Okay.
impact assistance is general fund, but it was only the main general fund assets that we froze.
Okay.
I believe there was also on that that was unfrozen was a few purchases of capital expenditures of like the police department stuff and stuff like that, we did leave that unfrozen also. So,
Yeah, there were some that were unfrozen.
okay.
But what we're asking for tonight is just the remainder of the list. And like I said, we can go through and unfreeze certain ones, that's just at the discretion of the board. We're just asking to unfreeze the list is the proposal that you have in front of you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll be in recess for a few minutes. Thank you, Tom.
Is there anybody that's cold? I'm dying from the heat over
I
here.
am so hot.
Can we turn it down a little bit? It is like horribly broiling in here.
I was
I'm glad you
freezing
said
last
that.
time, and this time I'm roasting.
At least we can get you a blankie if it's cold, though.
I'm glad you said that. I was,
I'll bet in that jacket.
and then I got this jacket, I was gonna jump up and take it off.
I am dying over here. This whole thing has just been on the whole time. It's just putting it out. It just.
That's part of that boiler issue we was talking about with maintenance. So the police department, I guess, the other day, chief's office was like 50 degrees. Go to another one, it was 90 degrees.
Sure.
It's like, come on, we just.
Yeah, it was like when they were heat in the basement, but the upstairs didn't have
Yeah,
any heat.
yeah. I remember that too. Thank you.
You can open one of these windows if you want, and just don't try to. If you want to put the line up, there's a lock on the very top in between the two windows.
Just crack it for a minute and maybe
Yes.
just get a little bit of air.
I just can't reach it, so one of these. That's a hilarious.
It's just at eye level.
Thank you. Perfect.
There we go.
I was.
That'll work.
Okay.
Are you? Because you're warm too, right?
Yeah, I'm not usually warm, but
Try that.
No. We can crack that back down. That's no big deal. If it's hot back there, no one cares. Right?
You are intimidating us. There is one other participant. This meeting is being recorded.
So I think I'll have no Wisconsin issues where I'm life fixed, so it happened to them that and also this meeting.
Okay, we did, usually have weirdness, but sometimes it does, so thank you for figuring out why. No, I don't.
I always like it when no signature.
Oh, that letter that they wrote,
Mr. Devon?
they didn't sign it. What I've been trying to do is
Yes, you can hear me?
answer some of those folks.
Okay, I'm standing by the telephone, obviously, but, everybody's mic, so just,
I put some stuff in, I don't use Facebook, but I put some stuff in Facebook. The person that owns Facebook takes it off. And I'm not being nasty or nothing, I'm just answering questions that these folks are bringing out. I have never, ever mistreated an employee.
Go out
I
and get
used
all
to be an employee.
Mad and mean and
Yeah, I used to
yell
be
at
an
people.
employee, and then they say, at the bottom, the only answer they put was, get rid of Wells, Martinez, get rid of us all. Well, that's their right. And I don't know how to answer that without them taking it off. I used to use the newspaper years ago, but
Oh, sure.
they don't let us use it.
So I'm starting to wonder
all the information you need, so it's as easy as possible for you.
Sounds great, I think. Yeah, somebody makes a motion. I don't have any trouble with it. Well, it's like paying ourselves back with interest if we wanted to. 6 months.
that's part of my concern.
We get some of these projects done. At least makes us look half decent.
But yeah, it's my understanding of this whole there's some turns it into gas. That's which
Better get on here. Last time I didn't.
He doesn't want it now. He will.
All right, everybody ready? I'll call this meeting to order. It is 7:30. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have roll call, please. Roll call.
Is the meeting open?
Meeting's not open.
It's not open, is it?
Yeah, I called the meeting to order at 7:30.
Sorry.
We're joining.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
we can't join.
Oh,
Just join.
Now we can.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor Terry Wycombe,
here.
Vice Mayor Jacqueline Wells,
Here.
Councilmember Aaron Durst,
Here.
Councilmember Darrell Gardner,
Here.
Councilmember Dabari Martinez,
Here.
Councilmember Linda Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Chris Weisenberg.
Here. Okay, we're in.
All right, thanks. Next thing on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Councilman Smith,
I move to approve the agenda of November 1st, 2022 as written.
Second.
been a motion made and seconded to approve the November 1st, 2022 City Council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thanks. Next thing on the agenda is to approve minutes of October 18th. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve the city council regular meeting minutes of October 18th, 2022 as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the city council regular meeting minutes of October 18th, 2022 as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
Wendy, do I need to abstain from this vote since I had to abstain during that whole meeting?
You didn't abstain from the entire meeting, just from portions of it?
I thought I abstained.
I'm
from-
sorry, it was your surgery.
Yes.
Yes, you should abstain. My apologies.
Good question.
Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 5 yeas and 2 abstain. Councilmember Durst and Councilmember Gardner abstained.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is a public hearing. It's a rezoning of PZ 22-08-01, 702 Washington Street from R 7.5 to commercial C2. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this at the moment? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Excuse me.
I think.
Did you want to speak to this, sir?
I'm just here if there's any questions on it.
Okay, we'll get,
I'm going to throw this away.
You'll
I
have your
can't
chance.
shut it off.
all right.
Hit the silent button on the side.
So the next thing on our agenda is a public hearing. I'll open a public hearing. It's a resolution authorizing submission of a Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application for the city of Rawlins. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to that? Seeing none, I will close that public hearing. The next thing on our agenda is a public hearing, a revocation of municipal solid waste hauler license. Is there anybody that would like to speak to that? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. The next thing on our agenda is citizens' participation. This is a time set aside for the public to comment on anything that is not on the agenda, and you are limited to 5 minutes as per resolution number 2C-96. But feel free to come up and tell us who you are and speak about anything that you would like to tell us. Seeing nobody, I will go on to the next thing on our agenda, which is a presentation of the Community Builder Award for November 2022. And I would ask the members of the volunteer committee to come up and
Honorable Mayor and Council, if I could ask members of the volunteer committee to please join us. Before we present the award to Mike Lujan this evening, the October Community Builder Award the City Council presented to Becky Perkins, and she was not able to attend the meeting, so we'd like to present it to her this evening if we could, and I believe Alan Robinson would like to say a few words.
Honor Mayor and Council, I'll give you a pretty good brief last time as far as what Becky has done. Just kind of reiterate real quick. 32 years on the Fire Commission. Basically was there from its inception till today. At this time, we'd actually have the award. We'd like to hand that to her.
thank you, Becky.
Thank you. Go ahead, sorry.
All right, so for the November presentation of the Community Builder Award, the volunteer committee would like to present the award to Mike Lujan. And just as a reminder, the Community Builder Award is a monthly award the city presents to local businesses, individuals, organizations for their volunteer service, sponsorship, promotion of programs and events, outstanding service in the interest of the city, and for other contributions significant to Rawlins' quality of life. So the volunteer committee would like to present November 2022 to Mike Lujan. I'm going to read a few things if we have a few hours to talk about some things that Mike has done for the community. And I'd like to start just from a personal standpoint that I can recognize. My son plays football for Rawlins High School this year. And I learned that Mike and his staff feed the football team every Thursday evening throughout the season. So I can tell you right here that my son, our son, ate much better than my wife and I did every Thursday for the last few months. And my son came home very excited because the last time he fed everybody steaks, and they were very excited. So thank you for that. All right, I'm going to go through a few other things that Mike has done for this community over the years. And this goes back a few years, but Mike coined the phrase community, not competition. You see that on a lot of our vendors, a lot of food trucks, a lot of businesses. What a great concept that was. I'm just going to say it again, community, not competition. How fantastic is that? He's a lector for St. Joseph Parish. He's a leader on Rawlins Search and Rescue. On Mondays, which is one of his days off when he gets it, he works on the ambulance for Hannah. He helped coach kindergarten football for the little kiddos. He was selected to be part of the Rawlins Middle School Guiding Coalition. And that's true because I was also selected, so we get to sit with middle school staff once a month. He's staff member of the Emergency Operations Center and Emergency Management, and served as area staging manager for the critical water event, which was a great help to this city and the residents. He's on the board of directors for St. Joseph's Parish Council. He's a volunteer assistant with the school drop-off, opening doors for the little kids. He's honored by Classic Air Medical as a medical volunteer. He's been honored by the Wyoming Education Association with the Friend of Education Award. He was honored by Rawlins Fire Department at their annual banquet. He's a board member on the local St. Christopher's Highway Aiding Transients. Past board member of the Boys and Girls Club, the Gladiator Boxing, St. Vincent's, and the Chamber of Commerce. He's committed to youth and provides free meals, as I mentioned before, to not only Rawlins High School, but for the basketball, cheerleaders, band, Rawlins Middle School teams, such as soccer and many more. He offered free meals for the community throughout the coronavirus pandemic. He donated cases of sanitizer and Everclear to make more sanitizer. He fed emergency responders a barbecue during the pandemic. He handed out 50 cases of toilet paper and potatoes during the pandemic. He hosts a Veterans Dinner. He fed over 150 guests for the annual Veterans Day meal. Thanksgiving is a big one. He cooked over 80 turkeys last year and fed over 1,000 people for the 23rd annual Thanksgiving dinner. He purchased toys and delivered for over 500 kids for the 23rd annual, I believe, Toys for Tots. And he's even made the Reader's Digest twice. So, okay, and so City Council, as part of this award, gives the recipient an opportunity to donate $100 towards a donation of their choice. So Mike has donated $100 to the Boys and Girls Club of the city funds that we provide for this award, but he also donated his own $100 to, what is that?
Oh, St. Christopher's Highway of Carbon County.
All right. So, yes, let's. Oh, wait, I forgot to turn the page over. No. I do believe Mike would like to say a few words, so if I could pass the mic over to him, and we do have the plaque as well.
Honorable Mayor and worthy council, so I wrote some stuff down because this is pretty overwhelming, I'll be honest with you. So all those things were listed, but every good thing that comes from my restaurant Oh, yeah, part-time, I work in a restaurant. Every good thing that comes from that restaurant comes through my coworkers. Not my employees, but my coworkers. And every successful mission that I go on is because of my EMS friends and because of my search and rescue teammates. And every failure, likewise, that comes through me. And any poor decision that I make or anything that I fail to plan for, that comes through me, not anybody else. And I'm here because of the support and the friendship and that I receive from everybody in this community. I mean, really, it's not just a business thing. It's friendship outside of my restaurant that when I see you in Walmart or City Market or downtown or wherever I'm at, that's the support that means so much to me, and I'm honored and I'm humbled, and it just means so much that you chose me. I mean, your committee and everybody involved, they thought of me, and that means something. And I know that every day that my faith and the ardency and the support of my family, my church, my sisters and their spouses, my aunts, my friends, everything that we accomplish is through them and the strength that they give me. And I'm here tonight for my mother and for my father. And so when we go home and we pray tonight, let's pray for those that are hungry and that have nothing. And let's think of those that are alone and have nobody. And I just want to say thank you, and may God bless you all, and may God bless the city of Rawlins. Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, great. Okay, bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The next thing on our agenda is the employee of the third quarter. I will turn the floor over to Stephanie Paulson. I thought I would.
Here she comes.
I apologize, Council. We had actually requested this to be postponed. The individual is not able to be here tonight, so I do apologize that kind of fell through the cracks, but next time.
All right. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is Fire Commission annual report.
Good evening. I'm Becky Perkins. I'm the Fire Commission Chairman of the Rawlins Fire Commission. As you know, I've been on it for 32 years.
I'm sorry.
And this year, as you know, we were able to get the new civil service rules written and accepted by you, the commission, and we greatly appreciate that. It was strong working between the fire chief and our commission and the employees. The other thing that the commission usually does is we are in charge of all hiring, testing, making sure that the people that are testing for new hires are treated equitably and fairly. The other thing that we also do is we oversee any promotional testing, which we did this year for shift captain. In that, we also make sure that all rules are followed by civil service standards, city service policies, and we make sure that they are treated equitable and fair. I don't think we have anything else bigger than that for this year.
Kind of on status quo now, so.
Yeah, yes. I appreciate Blaine. He is a wonderful fire chief. I would have to say out of 32 years, he's got to be one of the best ones that I've ever worked with. And thank you, council, for keeping me on all these years.
Thank you.
Well, and thank you for all the hard work. such high pay, you know.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next thing on our.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, good.
All right, next thing on our agenda is City of Rawlins Financial Year 2021 Audit Report. I'll turn the floor over to you, Tom.
Okay, we have Jeremy Drummond from Atlas CPAs, who is audit manager with us. So we will turn the time over to him, and he will briefly go over the audit report to council.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, as commented, my name is Jeremy. I did not work on the audit this year. However, I did assist Andrew Wen, who is the manager of the audit last year for the 2020 audit. So I was actually on site back in, I believe, February timeframe. So I'll be very brief with my, just kind of hit on some of the major highlights for this. Just looking at financial statements, general fund had a great year. There was an increase of about $9.5 million, which is up roughly $4 to $5 million from 2020. So the biggest driver of that increase was an increase in tax distributions of about $1.6 million to nearly $14.4 million. And then also the city received approximately $2.5 million of COVID funds. It's a large increase over 2021. However, we do expect this number to drop during 2022 as the COVID money likely won't flow through into 2022 as the funds already been received and spent. And then also the distributions are going to fluctuate year to year for the taxes. On the capital facilities tax, there was an increase of about $2.8 million during the year due to a new specific purpose tax revenues that were received. In terms of the fund balance, there's approximately $12.6 million of assigned fund balances, which we would recommend using for specific purposes, as this amount includes approximately $4 million of working capital reserves. There is an additional $1.6 million of committed fund balance, which is committed for future funding requirements and should not be spent. And then there's approximately $11.9 million of unassigned fund balance, which can be used as needed by the city. However, we would recommend being mindful of the expense, as the fund balance could drop in subsequent years, depending on the items that I mentioned previously related to grants and tax distributions to state and federal funds. The fund balance increased, as I mentioned, by approximately $12.5 million to $30 million over the prior year. And of that, as I mentioned, approximately $11.9 million can be spent by the city. Any questions on that? I know I kind of went over that fairly quickly.
Jeremy, we had a workshop before this meeting, and Tom went over a lot of this stuff, so does anybody have any questions? Councilman Smith.
Yes, I would like to ask Jeremy, did you find any irregularities, or did you have any comments?
We did not have any findings for the current year. During the 2020 audit, we had a couple of minor findings, which were resolved during the 2021 audit, and they were not, as mentioned, they were resolved, and there were no other findings noted this year.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate that report and all your hard work.
And I just want to kind of briefly go over the remaining process for the 2021 and then also 2022. We do want to thank Tom for making a much smoother process. As I mentioned, the 2020 audit was challenging, which is typical with the first do need to perform the single audit of the federal awards, which will be primarily tested over the COVID monies that were received. So once we receive the preliminary schedule of federal expenditures, we will go ahead and start our testing there. And once that's tested, we'll be able to submit the data collection form to the federal audit clearinghouse for the single audit with the financial statement audit, and then that'll wrap up the 2021 audit. And then that, subsequently, we'll pretty much jump right into the 2022 audit. So once we finish up the single audit, we'll be able, and we receive the work papers and the trial balances from Tom, we'll immediately dive into the audit for 2022. However, with the holidays approaching, we do expect some delays there, of course. However, we do fully expect, if everything goes well, to issue the 2022 audit by the end of March of 2023, which is great news. That'll mean we've issued 3 years of financial statement audits in less than 12 months, which means we'll be back on track and be able to jump into 2023 in more of a normal time frame. The one big change for 2022, however, is GASB 87 will need to be implemented, which we'll talk to Tom about as we get started with that.
Well, Jeremy, we sure appreciate your hard work in getting us caught up. It's been a real stumbling block for us making decisions, and actually the audit came out much better than we anticipated that it might. And we thank you for all your hard work.
We appreciate all the help that the team provided to get through these audits.
We have a great team. Anything else? Okay, we'll be moving on. Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is signs procedure report, and I guess we will hear from Austin, Cody, and Chief Ward.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, I just wanted to quickly present to you our process for the traffic signs in the city of Rawlins. We have the Rawlins Municipal Code, Title 10, which gives us some really good direction on how to go about the enforcement of our signs, the installation, where they're put, who puts them where. It's a complete document. And so we're getting a lot of special requests for different signs and things like that. But really, it's our belief that we should follow the ordinances that we have on the books and just move with that as department heads, and also the city council, in my recommendation as well, in following these ordinances. And we'll guide where we need to, give recommendations where we need to, and also implement on our part as well. So I just wanted to share that. That's the direction that we're heading.
I think there was some confusion because for years the Urban Systems Committee kind of helped make those decisions. And then it was brought to our attention roughly, a little over a year ago, that the Urban Systems Committee was being used wrong, basically, and it was more for between the city and the state and such like that to help put bigger projects together. And so that's probably why you suddenly got a barrage of sign requests and this and that. So knowing that there is a procedure and you educating on us on where to find that at, I think you'll find it'll smooth out and will be a lot less confusing to you all.
Okay.
But that's kind of what I saw sitting here.
Okay.
Because before you approached the Urban Systems Committee, when in fact that's no longer what we do.
Okay.
So.
One of the things is that, what's the procedure for bringing up new stuff?
So in terms of the process, we
I'll
have...
give you an example. When you brought up the trailer ordinance, they send it down to the urban systems, and they agreed on it 100%, then it came back here. Then the chairman of the urban systems reported to us that they would no longer handle those kind of subjects. So if I wanted to change an ordinance or do something, or somebody wants to change an ordinance, what's the procedure on that?
So, in terms of a process or procedure with reporting where we receive a complaint, it comes in through a variety of different means. Sometimes we get a phone call, sometimes somebody on the council receives a complaint, and we have a feature already at the City of Rawlins where you can that card report a concern, and so that's kind of where those come in.
Because in the past, there would be issues brought up about signs of whatever, but they never went to the urban systems. The council would just make a decision not to do it. How do we get around that?
By following the municipal code, it has an explanation out on how to do striping in town, how to handle signs and regulations and enforcement. It has everything that we need.
So I, as a citizen, want to turn in something so that you as a committee will look at. Do you have a form that they fill out now that will allow?
It's just a report of concerns. Just that'll give us information, and then we'll get with it and look at the feasibility of it. Is it, can Chief Ward police it? Yeah, we'll do the groundwork on that at that point.
Because it's been in the last month, I've introduced 2 different problems, and nobody knew where to go with it at the time. So I appreciate your work, though.
You're welcome. Any other further?
Thank you for the information. It's all right. Next on the agenda is the DDA and Main Street Hub Report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. So, I can start by saying we had a trifecta for Art Beat. We had 750 people at least, so we increased on people, we increased on artists, and we increased on businesses. So Friday night, October 7th, was a wonderful evening for family-friendly, but with artisans and everything, and we've got some great feedback and some suggestions from the businesses on how to continue to improve that event. So we appreciate that. If the public has, again, that's how we make things better and stronger, is just from feedback. Trick or treat on downtown streets. Wow. We had over 1,500 kiddos plus their parents last night. We had 48 businesses, and of those 48 businesses, 6 of them were not in the downtown that actually asked to come down to the downtown and be part of it. I want to tell you a little funny story in my 17 years being here. This was the 17th Trick or Treat on downtown streets. Started in 2006, and the day after Trick or Treat on downtown streets, I don't even remember if it was called that then, I got a call from the city manager and said, can you come to my office immediately? The chief of police is here, and we need you in my office immediately. I'm like, holy smokes. So I get up there, and Chief Reed at the time says, don't even sit down. And I'm like, okay. And he says, if you ever pull that again on me, I'm going to have your job. And I said, what? And he said, if you ever hold an event with that many kids and don't close the street, you are in big trouble. And that was in 2006 when we had 20 businesses. And I remember like in a week and a half trying to set that up, hoping we'd have like 10 to 12. And the first year we had 20. And my job threatened by the chief of police. And now we're at 48 and over 1,500 kiddos. So thank you. That event would not be with the police, the fire, the businesses. It's a community effort. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Couple other key things. We did do an amazing brownfield tour. We were part of, DDA was part of the brownfield tour last week. We visited businesses, buildings on all sides of town. And so we are working, Andrea and I are working on a grant submission for new assessment, and that will include downtown buildings, west side, east side, south side, everything. So that's moving forward. On that, you guys will have a resolution in 2 weeks at the council meeting. My next request, and this is to the council and the public, is if anybody has Christmas inflatables that would like to donate to a special, exciting holiday extravaganza, please call the DDA office. We are looking for, doesn't matter, but Christmas-themed inflatables. We would like to borrow them for about 10 days for downtown. And then the last thing is I have a report, amazing again. We had the reception for the 6 finalists. We had 16 people at the reception. They learned about how they're going to do their pitch night. Again, that's going to be December 8th at the Parka. We'd love everybody to come and listen to the businesses that are pitching their ideas. On top of that, we've had 8 businesses that have come to the hub to work with either Sandra and I, and that is not, there's only 1 in the downtown district, so 7 outside the district. And on top of that, Jim Drever from the SBDC has had 10 additional. So we had 18 businesses, not counting the 6 from the pitch night, that have come to the hub in October. Super, yeah. Any questions? Dabari.
I want to thank you and Andrea for working on that Brownsfield project. I seen you all out there in the wind looking at these old buildings, and I sure appreciate trying to get something done with them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. The next thing on our agenda is city manager and staff reports.
Before I begin my report, I'm told an individual is in the hallway that was unable to come in for the hearing on the municipal waste. If the council is willing to reopen that for her to be heard, it's at the discretion of the council, but there is an individual that would like to speak.
I would point out that there will be a point where there'll be a discussion time later, would give her opportunity, but Wendy, you tell me about I've never had this happen, so.
Yes, sir. It's my understanding that the person could be heard if the council so chooses during the action portion. However, normally the public comment is during the hearing, the public hearing portion. So I would leave it up to yourself, the mayor, whether or not you'd like to reopen or just invite that citizen to speak at the action portion.
I believe I will open up the public hearing again, and when you're done here, and when we're done with staff reports, then I will do that.
Very good. Okay, a couple items that we've already discussed tonight, but I'd like to bring up during the council meeting is an update on our grants. We received the results of the ARPA 2 grant through the SLIB board. We received that they recommended that we do not receive funding at this time through those. So the ARPA 2 grant has closed. We have been informed that in December there will be another round of the ARPA 2 monies that would be competitive. So there again, we will work on our application, and we will let the council know when that becomes available and what different items that we will be putting for our projects. On the CDBG grants, we needed 352 applicants on our survey, and we received approximately 360, which we sent into the state, which definitely should qualify us for those grants. We have applied for 2 of those grants that have been submitted. One is on the SCADA system, and the other one is on the transmission line, both for roughly $1 million. Last council meeting, a citizen asked about the water billings at the trailer parks. And we are still working on that at this time, and I would like to bring that to the council at the next meeting if that's acceptable.
That'd be great.
As far as an audit update, you've heard from the audit firm, so we have got the fiscal year 21 audit complete. The single audit, and what that is on federal funds, we have to file a report through the federal clearinghouse on all the federal funds that received, and they will test. I've got that about 75% ready to be submitted for them to test. So I would think in the next couple weeks that would be submitted. And work is well underway on our end for the fiscal year 2022 audit. We have several of the items already reconciled, ready to go to the auditors. There are a few left in there, I will admit, but we are getting closer to getting that submitted, which would bring us up current in our audits. There again, we received over $750,000 in federal funds. We will be subject to a single audit in fiscal year 2022 as well. On the water rate increases, the water increases have been entered into our billing system, and they will be included in the billings that go out later in November. So residents will be receiving those within the next 3 weeks with the increased rates. The last thing to report is I will be in Jackson the next 3 days for the Wyoming Association of Municipalities fall conference, which is for city managers and finance directors. I will probably go in between the two, I guess, as the topics kind of interest to the city. So I should be able to report on both of those basically in parts when I get back. So that is my report.
All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is city attorney report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council. Some of the different ordinances that have been brought to me recently, I have 2 of them ready now. Tonight you'll be hearing about the liquor delivery ordinance. We'll have first reading for that. Next meeting we'll have first reading on the TIPS training update, and the meeting following that we'll have first reading on the tattoo and body piercing. That one is a lot more involved and needs a lot more input, so it's taking me a little bit longer, but it is in process. We have 4 dangerous buildings that are currently in process as far as the notification process. Obviously, as we've discussed before, the notification process for abatement is an extremely long one, and we have 4 buildings currently in process. We have 1 that's currently in abatement.
Wow, you're busy. Thank you. All right. The next thing on our agenda is direction from city council to city manager or city attorney. Is there any city councilman that has any special requests of them? Councilman Garner?
This is for Wendy. Is it possible to start recording times when a council member is excused or leaves executive session and comes back to executive session, so we know who enters and leaves that room on the minutes that we actually approve on this agenda?
That is not a problem, and on mine, I do that. I don't know if Ms. Smith does when I'm not available for that, but yes, absolutely, that'll be recorded.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else? All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is discussion, designation of funds for the Wyoming Community Gas. I will just see if anybody has any suggestions. Councilman Martinez?
I like the suggestions that Councilmember Wells did last meeting, which was donate the money to the Rawlins Baseball Association. They're doing a lot of work out there, and they're hoping to get a big tournament here next year, which would bring some people into the community.
Councilman Durst?
Was that for the baseball field? I thought it was your idea.
It was my idea.
The baseball fields over here by the fairgrounds? Is
Yes.
that what we're talking about? Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
To improve those.
To,
One thing I would point out is Wyoming Gas always wants recognition for it, and to put a plaque there, it makes sense. This project
there'd
works,
have to be something.
where some projects don't really work that way, so I look at that positively also.
And I think that's pretty easy. If they did some work to the dugouts or something to that effect, they could put a nice plaque on the dugout.
For sure.
However it gets used.
Yeah.
I'm in full support.
Anybody else?
I agree. I think if those individuals are doing the work, a lot of the work themselves down there, that money will go a long ways and a lot of improvements. So.
Yeah.
So we need a motion.
It was a discussion item. We probably have to move the action item to next meeting. If there's no other suggestions, we'll move on. Okay, that was easy. Next thing on our agenda is to approve payroll. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve the October 9th, 2022 through October 22 payroll register of $284,456.24.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the October 9th, 2022 through October 22nd, 2022 payroll register for $284,456.24. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing is accounts payable. Councilman Smith.
I move to approve the accounts payable register for the period of October 8th, 2022 to October 18th, 2022 in the amount of $558,722.24.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the accounts payable register for the period of October 8th, 2022 to October 18th, 2022 in the amount of $558,722.24. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is to move to accept the final audit. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to accept the fiscal year 2021 financial audit report as presented by Atlas CPAs and Advisor PLLC.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to accept the fiscal year 2021 financial audit report as presented by Atlas CPAs and Advisor PLLC. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Martinez.
I'd like to thank our interim manager for the work he did on this audit. This is probably one of the best audits I've just had in and was able to follow it through really well. Thank you very much.
I concur. Any other discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. No? Councilman Smith, did you want to do?
It went somewhere, I don't know where it went.
Okay, I can change.
I'll just say aye and I'll move on.
Okay, thank you. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is to unfreeze capital projects. Councilman Smith.
I move to approve that we unfreeze capital assets from the fiscal year 2023 budget.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the to unfreeze capital projects from fiscal year 2023 budget. Is there any discussion? Councilman Weisenberg?
Tom, the only thing I have or would like to ask is, this is only gonna include capital. It's not any positions. It's been frozen through the time, correct?
Correct. It is only the capital as outlined on page 15 of the performance report.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the rezone of Washington Street. Address on Washington Street. Do I hear a motion? Councilman Martinez?
I make a motion to approve the rezoning of PZ 22-08-01 702 Washington Street from an R 7.5 to commercial C2.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve rezoning of PZ 22-08-01 702 Washington Street from R 7.5 to commercial C2. Is there any discussion? And Lou, would you explain what's going on here?
Honorable Mayor and Council, Matt and his wife Amanda approached us to change it from a R75 to a C2 for future development of a RV park. They've gone through the process through the Planning and Zoning Commission, which was approved, and this is our final step to get it passed through council in order to change it from the R75 to the C2.
Okay. Any questions? Councilman Weisenberg first and then Smith.
I was just gonna say, I was involved in this with planning and zoning, and it was a lot of questions asked during that too, and a lot of the things that we discuss is about spot zoning. We don't want to be spot zoning within the communities and stuff, and this does not spot zone. It actually is adjoining to a commercial property now, which is also right across a street, or really diagonal, I guess, kind of from a RV park at this point in time also, which is KOA.
Councilman Smith first and then Martinez.
I think that Councilman Weisenberg answered my question about spot zoning.
Okay. Councilman Martinez.
That was kind of one of my thoughts too, the spot zoning. I strongly support this. I think it's going to help the area. I would like to see sometime down the road look into rezoning that whole from Highway 71 all the way to the underpass and make it commercial. When I was a kid growing up in Rawlins, we had a motel there, we had a grocery store there. We've had a number of businesses, and as the years went on, they changed it and made it all residential. I would like to see somebody look into making all that property commercial.
Okay, maybe we can get together and
I appreciate that.
and see what area exactly you're talking about and move forward.
Well, it'd be a straight shot
Okay.
all the way through down Washington Street.
Okay.
An entrance to our community.
Vice Mayor Wells.
I'm having a hard time looking at the Google map. What's the parking lots across? Is that stage?
Washington Street is going to come in front of the property.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other questions or?
We have the owner here. I don't know if you have any questions for him, but Matt Robertson is also here.
I don't have any questions. I want to thank you for trying to improve our city, but other than that, I have nothing to say. All right, if there is no further discussion, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next thing on our agenda is to approve a revocation of municipal solid waste hauler license. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, are you going to open the public hearing again?
No, we already, oh, I'm sorry. I did promise to open up a public hearing again, and at this time, I will open up the public hearing.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm sitting out there feeling a little nostalgic, not realizing that on that wall out there of mayors, 4 of those people belong to me. It's a hard job. It's a very hard job. My family goes back to at least 1886. I'm Melanie Mickey Bartow, Rawlins, Wyoming. I go back and forth to Laramie. As an older non-trad, went back to school. So I'm in and I'm out. But I read the newspapers and I follow everything on social media. I want to speak up not only on behalf of Dirty Boys, but people in this town. I've been talking to elderly people who do not feel that they will be able to take their trash bin down to the street if the only service they have is Wyoming Waste. Are we going to have elderly people falling on ice, breaking hips? I mean, that's a real serious thing to think about. Disabled people, they count on Dirty Boys to come to their front door if they can't even get the bag out to their bin. In 2010, I had meniscus repair on my left knee. I am somebody who was hit by a drunk driver years ago, and I have the orthopedic souvenirs for the rest of my life. Jeremiah Garner said, if you can't get your trash bag out to your bin, leave the door open, I'll come in and get it. I don't think there's any other service in this town that has ever offered that for me. The surgery failed, and in May of 11, I had to have it repeated. I didn't walk for almost a year. Okay? Those people not only came up my hill, they came in my door to make sure that I was taken care of. I don't have that available to me from another company, except tonight I'm finding out the other company will come to your door, but it's going to cost you an extra $15. I don't know many senior citizens that are not on limited incomes. So something I would like you to consider tonight is put this final decision on hold until we have an opportunity to research a few more things. Seems like it's been an ongoing battle in this community with this one company for years. We just lost Lariat. And when that happened, for whatever the reasons were, immediately a family was out of work. Their employees were out of work. Rather than let this happen to another local business, why don't we turn the negative into a positive? I know for a fact that Rose Kane has been researching a way to make Rawlins the recycle capital of Wyoming. That would not only stimulate the economy, it'd provide jobs, and this family doesn't have to lose their livelihood. How many of us could survive if tomorrow our job is gone? We need to be a little more protective of the people who live here and work here. So what you could do is you could research a waste energy facility in the state of Colorado where our trash goes. The way it's composted, it becomes a commodity because it produces a gas that you can sell. Why can't that happen here? Why does it have to go to Colorado? It can stay here and we can do that here. And you can create jobs and boost your economy here. Give her a chance to let it work. She's been researching this and she's got the price down. It's going to be in the millions. But any growth and development is. So I also want to speak on behalf of disabled people. Have you ever been laid up? Have you ever broken your leg and been in a cast and you're the only person you have to take care of your business? Do you really think these people need to pay more money than we're already paying? We're in an inflated economy, people. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. The last thing people need is to have to pay a bigger bill. So I would just like you to know that, for the record, Dirty Boys can haul my bag of trash to the moon. I don't care, as long as it gets hauled. Okay? Now, if I have the choice between Wyoming Waste and I can personally, it was in the article that I can deliver that to them at their facility, I will do that. But I don't think I should have to. Because I think every one of you should care a little more about what's going on in this town. Turn a negative into a positive, and let's do something really good. We had the chance years ago to get Cabela's. It didn't happen. And even Laramie turned down Cabela's, and they regret that now. You imagine what Cabela's could have done for our economy? And Bass Pro Shop comes along and they buy it. I called about 5 years ago, Cabela's. Would you please give us another chance? Not happening. I called Bass Pro Shop. I called the corporate office. Could you please, we were the gateway to Yellowstone, we're South Central Wyoming, and you know what they said to me? They didn't know me, but they knew my town. They said, your town's mentality is not on par with what we want to do. That's what was said to me. We're better than that. And when we have people here who date back to the mid to late 1800s, that is generation after generation after generation of people. I don't want to see another business close. I don't want to see more people out of work. I do want to see you making a little extra effort to try to resolve this in a way where nobody gets hurt. Now, if we have to rewrite a few rules that has something to do with where the trash is taken to a facility and then to Colorado, well, how about if we build the waste energy facility here? That's what I have to say today. I drove all the way from Laramie for the opportunity to speak to you because I care about these people. They helped me at a time when I couldn't walk. I want to help them. And thank you for everything that you've done for me. I really, really appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you. And I will close that public hearing, and we will go on to the next item of business, which is approve the revocation of municipal solid waste hauler license. Do I have hear a motion?
Oh, we need some people to leave.
Again, I will ask, do I have a motion?
Well, I guess I'm confused because if Daryl has to leave before the motion's made, then don't you and Chris have to leave as well?
No. I have no conflict of interest with this company on this subject.
But a couple of meetings ago, you declared a conflict and you left and recused yourself, which will last permanently.
Wendy, would you explain the situation?
Under Wyoming statute for conflict of interest, in section 15.1.127, it requires that no qualified member of the governing body or of any city or town or any member of that qualified member's immediate family may receive any monetary or other economic benefit from any contract to which the city or town or anyone for its benefit is a party. The obligation on the part is void in any contract in which there is a monetary or other economic benefit received by the qualifying member or his family. In this, it only mentions financial. It does not mention any other type of conflict being considered an official conflict of interest. Courts have also stated that while there is no specific outside requirement that there be anything other than a financial interest, the Attorney General in 1997 that decided that any definition of personal or private interest includes receiving or incurring a direct financial gain or loss if the measure or bill is enacted. And personal or private interest does not include a financial gain or loss which shall be received or incurred by a member if the gain or loss shall also be received or incurred by a substantial class of persons Again, even this AG's letter requires that there be some type of financial gain or pecuniary interest. In this case, as there is no financial gain or pecuniary interest of any of the members except Councilman Garner, it is up to the council members to determine whether or not any other opinions that they hold can be set aside so that they can vote fairly and equitably.
So even though we've set a recusal, now we're going to reverse that? Is that
What we had was a actual contract awarding, which is not what this topic is. We have not mentioned this topic. We have not reviewed this topic.
Okay, I guess I'm confused because I would think if you had a conflict with the company at all, you'd have a conflict with the entire part of the company.
There's been no conflict of interest. What I indicated previously was a personal conflict, which is not part of the definitions and was an error on my part. As long as the members can be viewed as able to set aside any personal bias and act in neutral in a neutral manner, then just as with a criminal jury, as long as a person can set aside their biases and still give fair and equal hearing, then that is not considered a reason to excuse them from said panel. I believe that that would also apply here.
Okay.
Of course, if any council member chose to recuse themselves or excuse themselves, that would absolutely be their right.
So be it.
All right. So, do I hear a motion?
I'd move to postpone this item until the next meeting so we can better understand and gain more knowledge on this subject.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to postpone this item to the next meeting for the purpose of gathering more information. Is there any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, members of council, thank you for this ability to present tonight. What's troubling for the Dirty Boys or the licensee in this matter is that the lack of information and timelines afforded to her to respond to the notice of violation and the quick rush to revoke her license. Now tonight, the council wants to put this on pause when she has costs associated with having an attorney here, having additional people available and ready and prepared to address this tonight. For this council to postpone a cause of action that you have directed to be brought would dramatically affect her financially, as well as personally as well. So we adamantly, vehemently object to any postponement of on the merits of this revocation hearing. The council is the one that through the mayor, sets the agenda. When you set the agenda, you identify that it's ripe for discussion and you're ready to present your case. Present your case and your evidence, we'll provide a rebuttal, and then the council can determine which way they want to go. But it would be very frustrating to this licensee to postpone tonight's decision.
Is there any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Okay, online voting has closed. The motion passes with 4 yeas, 2 nays. Councilmember Durst and Vice Mayor Wells, and not present was Councilmember Gardner.
All right, thank you. So the next thing on our agenda is the Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change. I would entertain a motion.
I think we can get Councilman Gardner in.
Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve the Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change Order Number 7 of $270,000 to reimburse Rocky Mountain Industrial Construction Services LLC's RMI for field fit connections.
Second?
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change Order Number 7 of $270,000 to reimburse Rocky Mountain Industrial Construction Services LLC for field fit connection costs which were not already in the original contract. Any discussion? I'll turn the floor over to you, Austin.
Yes, this change order is to cover the costs for the field fit connections at the Sage Creek Basin Springs project. This will make the contract whole in this particular instance where we did not have complete as-built plans to go off of, and we did quite a bit of additional field work to make those connections happen with our springs and to bring water to town.
Are there questions? Councilman Weisenberg?
I just, I see several change orders coming here and they amount to like 200 or almost $500,000. I mean, all for the Sage Creek. Is this going to be final? Because there was an amount allocated to this project and we're sitting at over $1 million over that allocation of this project already.
So this amount for these 3 change orders is $550,000. And we are in a position where in the previous meeting we allocated an additional $600,000 we set aside for this to complete this project.
Further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is Sage Creek change order also. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve the Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change Order Number 8 of $20,000 to reimburse Rocky Mountain Industrial Construction Services LLC, RMI, for materials related to the construction of an air release valve vault, which were not already in the original contract.
Do I hear a second? Been a motion made and seconded to approve the Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change Order Number 8 of $20,000 to reimburse Rocky Mountain Industrial Construction Services LLC, RMI, for materials related to the construction of an air release valve vault, which were not already in the original contract. Is there any discussion? And again, Austin, I would have you explain.
Yes, this is for an air release valve vault that is located adjacent to the reservoir, to Rawlins Reservoir, and it was not included in the contract as a material where the contractor would provide that, and that the city was going to provide all materials. This is an instance where the contractor was able to supply those materials.
Any questions of that? All right, please open online voting.
Online voting has opened. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Next thing is another change order. Councilman Garner.
I move to approve the Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change Order Number 9 of $200,000 to reimburse Rocky Mountain Industrial Construction Services LLC for impact fees related to weather delays.
Second?
Been a motion made and seconded to approve Sage Creek Basin Spring Pipeline Replacement Change Order number 9 of $200,000 to reimburse Rocky Mountain Industrial Construction Services, LLC, for impact fees related to weather delays. Is there any discussion? And again, Austin, I would turn it over to you.
In the proposal that was accepted and became part of the contract with Rocky Mountain Industrial, we had a section for impact fees related to weather delays. In that, we had some fairly substantial delays as a result of the snow. This covers the cost for per diem and things like that for the folks that were stranded working here when they couldn't be working, when they had no access to the site due to blizzards and incredibly muddy conditions.
Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. The next thing on our agenda is a submission of a conservation grant. Councilman Smith.
I move to approve a resolution authorizing submission of a Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application for the city of Rawlins.
Do I hear a second?
Second. I'll second that.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the resolution authorizing submission of a Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application for the city of Rawlins. Is there any discussion? Jason, I'll let you explain.
Honorable Mayor and Council, thank you. We have a great funding opportunity, and staff would like to submit 3 applications to the Land and Water Conservation Fund, the Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund. It's federal funding that's funneled through the state, basically. These projects are designed to expand and improve recreational offerings for the community. These grants do require a 50% match of non-federal funding for each project, and I'd like to go over those projects briefly. The first one is golf course cart path improvements. It would be a $50,000 match for a total project amount of $100,000. I want to point out that the matching funds are already funded through City Council through the impact assistance funds. So there would be no financial or fiscal impact on the city. And this funding would make necessary repairs to the golf course cart paths in many areas of the course. Many areas have kind of eroded away, and some are worse than others, but we've identified what we can do with $50,000, and it's just not quite enough. So we thought it would be great idea to hold off, see if we can double our funding and have $100,000 to make these repairs. The next one is skate park additions. That would be a $35,000 match for a total of $70,000 for the project. The matching funds for this grant application come from local donations. So again, there's no fiscal impact on the city. We just think it's a good way to leverage our $35,000 to try to turn it into $70,000. And just to paint a quick picture, what we have in the existing skate park right now is the $70,000 that the city council allocated for that project. So if you can kind of picture in your mind that to double the amount of elements and features that we have in the current skate park. So we felt it was good enough reason to hold off and apply for this grant. I think the funding is awarded in February, and the funding is generally available next summer, but it is a reimbursement grant. So the city could pay for the funding and get reimbursed at a later date, and it doesn't have to be the entire project. So you could the city could spend $20,000 here, $20,000 there, submit a reimbursement for the $20,000 and the next 20, so we don't have to spend all the money up front. The last project is the Washington Park tennis courts resurfacing. This has been on city's mind for several years now. They've been unplayable for several years now. The funding, the match for this project would come from the Carbon County School District Number 1 Rec Board. They granted the city with $125,000 through 2 grants in 2016. Those funds were not utilized. Last year, I went to the Rec Board to ask to extend that grant. They were gracious enough to do so. We recently went out to bid for the tennis courts. We received 0 bids. I believe because, people are smart and they look at what we have budgeted, and the $125,000 really isn't enough to repair those courts other than a Band-Aid like carpet or artificial turf on the surface. So we felt it was best to use our resources, apply for this Land and Water Conservation Fund grant with the attempt to turn that $125,000 into $250,000. Then we really have some funds to play with and go after another bid process and really get construction companies to bid this project to completely redo those tennis courts. So I think that's basically the background, and staff's recommendation is for council to move to approve the resolution authorizing the submission of the Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund grant applications for the city of Rawlins. And before finishing, I'd like to thank Myra Miller as well as Andrea Hammond. They've been helping with gathering information for the grant and getting things ready for the public hearing. And then it's just a great team effort. I'll be writing the grant applications because I know what we need for those projects. So just another example of city employees working together for the greater good of the residents.
Cool. Councilman Smith?
This is a Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. Is there any stipulations if in the future, if we were to not use or they become obsolete, will we have to have a contingency to pay the money back or anything like that? Or is that gone now?
No, there is a stipulation in the grant, because I've written several Land and Water Conservation Fund grants for different cities and states, but that the park location that the project is to utilize the funding should be set aside for recreational purposes in perpetuity. And I believe the city's received about 10 Land and Water Conservation Fund grants. You probably know quite a bit about this, Councilwoman. Over the last several years, and I know this because I was at a conference and I specifically talked to Wyoming Land and Water Conservation Fund staff. One, because I wanted to be sure that the golf cart path improvements would be part of this grant, and it was confirmed that absolutely. In fact, another city in Wyoming used Land and Water Conservation Funds to actually purchase a municipal golf course from a local business. So while talking to her, she said, "Oh, by the way, I'll be in Rawlins next week to do, I guess, an inspection on those 10 grants or so to see what was still there, to make sure the projects were still there, see if signage was there and things like that." So, so yes, that, to answer your question, there is some stipulations for the funding.
I agree with what you're saying, what you're doing. I just wanted to ask, what happens if we don't receive the grant at the tennis court? We still wouldn't have enough money to do it, right?
So I attended a CCSD #1 rec board meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, when I asked for an extension, and they granted the extension, I want to say end of January 2024. So if we do not receive Land and Water Conservation Funds for the tennis courts, we still have that $125,000, and I look at it 2 ways. One, I would try one last time to go out to bid to get a carpet surface or a artificial turf surface that'll get us by 5, 10, maybe more years, and then go for future funding and grant opportunities. So that would be one more time, try to go out to bid to see if we can get somebody to bid the project. The second is to go to the CCSD #1 rec board and say, thank you so much for your grant opportunity and extending it from 2016, but we'd like to, at this point, give it back so that you can redistribute that to other areas of the community in need, and we'll be, regrouping and come back and maybe have another grant request. I think that's the only appropriate thing to really do.
Righty, thank you.
Councilman Weisenberg?
Jason, with the stipulations that, and inspections that you're about to incur with this stuff, with the skate park addition on the match of that, if in the future that those phases come to fruition and moving that, is this going to be a problem for the match? Because you just talked about a park location. Is that going to be a problem, moving that equipment and starting something somewhere else?
I had the same question, and so I asked them that and gave them the same example, that Key Club Parks is technically phase 1 of the skate park project. Phase 2 would be relocating to across the street from the recreation center, whether that be in 1 year or 15 years. And she felt that as long as that equipment was moved to another property location owned by the city that is designated for recreation purposes in perpetuity, there's no issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. Open online voting, please.
Online voting is open. Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jason. Next thing on our agenda is an ordinance, first reading of an ordinance. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve the first reading and waive the reading of Rawlins Municipal Ordinance 5.08.425, delivery of alcoholic liquors and malt beverages.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to approve the first reading and waive the reading of Rawlins Municipal Code Ordinance 5.08.425, delivery of alcoholic liquors and malt beverages. Is there any discussion? Vice Mayor Wells.
I just want to thank Wendy for getting this done so quickly. The business owner, one of the business owners approached me a while back, and we were just talking about it yesterday, actually, and she's very appreciative that things are going to move potentially so quickly. So I think it's a good ordinance.
Councilman Weisenberg.
Yeah, I would agree and concur. I just did not see while reading this, I didn't see it in here about tips on that. Are they going to be required to have tips training to deliver it also?
The actual purchase is made through the business that has the retail liquor license, which is required to have tips training.
Not the person delivering will not be required to have it?
Not necessarily, but they do have to be over the age of 21.
Okay, and then the other question I had in here is, it gives a portion of 3 to A, B, and C about plastic sealed, heat closed, or in a container that has an unbreakable seal incorporated in the container cap. That's the same as, it don't have to meet all 3, it just has to meet one of them. So a closed bottle of liquor going to an individual is good enough.
That language is straight out of the open container law.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Martinez.
I did have somebody approach me about this, and I support it. I guess one of the things they also asked me about was tips being used through the computer. Did we, I can't remember if we changed it or not, and I said I would bring it up.
That is coming up at the next meeting.
Okay, sorry about that. All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Durst.
So if I read this correctly, the person making the delivery has to verify the ID of the person receiving the delivery?
That is correct.
So I guess I would think, wouldn't that logically mean that they should also be tip trained if they're going to be IDing and knowing who can and can't accept delivery? Does that make sense? Because, so like, for example, when I took tips training, one of the things that shocked me was if a pregnant woman comes up, you have to serve it. And so if they walked up and said, oh, I'm just wondering whose responsibility is that really going to fall on? If I place my order online and then the person shows up, who's verifying? You see what I'm saying?
So it's the same rule as someone walking into the liquor store, because only people who have retail liquor licenses can do this. So the requirements of walking in the store and purchasing are the same as being delivered. We're just moving it off site.
Right, but the person doing the delivery has to do the ID verification.
That's
right?
correct, but that's all they have to do because they're not actually serving, they're delivering a sealed container.
So I guess I'm questioning not having that person be tips trained.
Is that something that you would like me to
I don't know,
add?
I'm asking, that's my issue, is I'm questioning if that person's making that delivery, at that point, I think they should probably be as trained.
May I have a quick second and I can get you that answer? My statute book is over here. I can answer that.
Well, or I mean, if everybody else agrees or disagrees, we just say for the next reading, have it added in there.
I'm more than happy to actually put that in writing to give everybody an update, because it also, since I'm also rewriting the TIPS ordinance, perhaps this is something I can handle with both of them at the same time. Second reading on this one and first reading on the TIPS ordinance. Would you like me to move forward with that?
Yeah.
I personally would.
Okay. Okay.
I have fixed the motions, Councilman Weisenberg.
So just real quick, Councilman Gardner actually brought this to just making sure a delivery service can deliver this. It's not an individual from the business, correct?
Please say that again.
So it's a delivery service such as Grubhub, Mraz, whoever is operating within our city is able to deliver this as long as they are 21. It does not have to be an employee of the business that it's being purchased from.
That is correct. It's a business owner's determination whether or not they contract with a delivery service.
So I would concur, like I was asking about tips, if they had to be, I would concur with Councilman Durst on this, and I would like to see that added into this, and they be required to take a tips class.
I will make those amendments for second reading if that is the council's wish.
Thank you.
Should we have that as an amendment and vote on the amendment and then the main motion? Would you?
I can make a friendly amendment to add language to allow for the delivery person to have tips training.
And who seconded it?
I'll second that.
Hold on one second.
But whoever seconded that.
I would second that.
Okay, you'll accept that friendly
Yes,
amendment? All right. All right, with that amendment, friendly amendment in mind, please open online voting.
She probably has to write it.
Just because one gets this across the board. And you're a delivery business.
I'm down 3 bottles, so good thing executive session's going.
I was needing another one up in like conserving over here. I don't see it. Oh. The mayor's got 2 bottles. He's about to get one robbed.
I always bring one pop and one water. Because here, the water is hot. I can't drink hot water.
Hand me one of them, please.
Give him the hot one.
Give me the hot one. I'll take the hot one, which is going to be the other one.
Here you go.
Oh, this is his cold one.
That's okay.
Okay.
No, it ain't.
They were cold.
It's the same, Chris.
No, it's colder. Watch out.
It don't matter.
Thank you for doing that for him.
It's all the heat in here.
Okay, so online voting is open.
Wow. By trick or treating out at Daryl's drawer over here. He's got a stack.
Online voting has closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.
All right, thank you. Next thing on our agenda is an executive session. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to go into executive session at 9:01 p.m. per Wyoming Statute 164405 to consider or receive any information classified as confidential by law, and to consider the appointment, employment, right to practice, or dismissal of a public officer, professional person or employee, or to hear complaints or charges brought against an employee, professional person or officer, unless the employee, professional person or officer requests a public hearing. The governing body may exclude from any public or private hearing during the examination of a witness any or all other witnesses in the matter being investigated. Following the hearing of or executive session, the governing body may deliberate on its decision in executive session.
Second.
Been a motion made and seconded to go into executive session at 9:01. Any discussion? I'll open online voting. I almost said all.
Online voting is open.
I'm curious, did you take a breath during that whole thing?
One.
I didn't hear any.
All right.
Oh, man.
Online voting is closed. The motion passes with 7 yeas.